Hi, I am Brother Kelly Hughes, Chaplain of the Arts. We are broadcasting live to tape from the Valiant Theatre here in the heart of Winnipeg's Greasy Tenderloin. This is Kelly Hughes Live, Slices, one guest, 1 hour. We are on YouTube and UMFM 101.5 every Saturday at 1 p.m. So wherever you are watching this or listening to this, thank you so much for stopping by. And thank you to my guest for stopping by, Tina Keeper.
Thank you, Kelly.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Kelly.
It's so nice to see you.
It's so good to see you, too.
Tina and I were in theater school in like 1989 or something.
Yeah, in 1989. Exactly.
I ran into, as I was doing theater, I ended up with half a theater degree because I realized you could get the same things done with half a theater degree as you could with a whole one.
That's true.
So, but I was also,
if you're, I don't know, if you found what you're looking for, I think. I didn't find what I was looking for until year 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say who it is, but
yes,
there was a prof that I found so frustrating.
Yes.
And I really didn't like.
Yes.
And I got this idea. I stuck a note on his door.
Right.
And told him that he was a lousy, at the end of the year, told him he was a lousy prof, and I was going off to Vancouver to seek my fame and fortune, and he could shove it. So I guess at least he gave me the, you know what I mean? I was just like, you know what, I can do this, and I had sort of a
you can't be. You're thinking this cannot be it.
I had a burst of energy,
right.
and went off to live with my sister, and so I was like 21, and I had I had some adventures, and I toured with a theater company.
Right.
I was making $1,000 a month and toured around, and we worked our asses off doing anti-drug stuff because it was 1991. And then after we did 135 school performances,
yes,
we were done. And then I did some auditions, and then I was like, I don't think I want to do this, which is good, because if you're not going to want to do something,
right,
you should just not do it. But interestingly, I never really got that far away from theater. I just stuck this here for no reason in particular. This is my mom. So
wow,
my mom was pregnant with me in late 1969 when she was doing Hello Dolly at the Hollow Mug. And remember the Hollow Mug?
Yes, I do.
So I have
Isn't that where Barbara Streisand sang?
I don't know.
Hollow Mug? I don't know. I know
I have like theater coursing through my veins.
Right.
No, I mean, so I gave up on that. But just as I was giving up on that, so that was around 1992.
Right.
And then that's when you started doing North of 60, like was it fall of 92?
It was in 92, the fall of 92. Yeah. So like I understand that experience you're talking about in, with acting teacher. But there was something that caught me, like in my first year at the university. I already really loved theater as an expression, because we had a Native theater group here in the city of Winnipeg at the Indian and Métis Friendship Center, which was just over here,
just up there. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's empty.
It's not there anymore.
Might have even burned down. I think
up on the other side. It was the one here on Pacific. It was just off of Isabel here. It was way back when.
Over here. Okay, so we're pointing.
You're going.
No, Isabel and Pacific's over here.
No, there's.
No, you're pointing towards the tracks.
Okay, we just came in. Oh, it's over. You're right.
Yeah,
it's over.
I know I'm right because I live here. So a native theater company.
Anyways, we had a native theater company. It was just run by it was just a group of us, young Indigenous people that were in the city.
Yeah.
And that's how it got started. And that was around 1980.
Yeah.
And it was Jim Compton, Errol Canistano, like all these people that went on to have careers.
Yeah.
There was Kathy Menard, who still is around, and she's an administrator, a bureaucrat, but
Hmm.
it was just this
Yeah.
fantastic group. There was about 20 of us,
Yeah.
and we had our little theater. We had our artistic design. I was part of the artistic design crew. I wasn't an actor, but that's
Yeah.
where I started taking acting. And then
Well, you were young.
yes, and then I went to the Native Theatre School in Eastern Canada because there was one. It's now the Centre for Indigenous Theatre.
Yeah.
So I went to that incarnation. And I really loved it. I loved the idea that, because I grew up, my parents are both language speakers. They were both from the north and, really rich culture. So I grew up knowing these stories of, these trickster stories, and then hearing the people, and just seeing their traditional lifestyle. Because when I was a child, people still built their own homes,
Yeah.
still lived, we still went to fishing camp. It was just, I don't know, it was just a rich life. Then we had amazing artists like Ojig and Norval Morso that would, were friends of my parents, or Norval Morso would have to come and stay at the house when he
Hmm.
was in the city. Like, so there was just all of this, culture around us that would, to me, was really rich about
Yeah.
who we were. And we wanted to give voice to that. And I think as young people, we were really impacted by the American Indian movement, which was
Hmm.
happening in the States,
Yeah.
and, being politicized to the point of, you know, where's our voice? Where's our
Yeah.
voice in Canada? And we didn't want it to be a Canadian voice. We want it to be our voice.
Hmm.
And, many of us, our parents, or even some of the older young people, they were very involved in the whole idea of, treaty rights and Aboriginal rights. And then, there was like caravans that would, travel across the country,
Hmm.
and, really talking about our rights and our place in this country, and the fact that we hadn't given up everything.
Yeah.
So it's just, it was a dynamic time that's preceded university for me.
Hmm.
And I really knew that I wanted to be involved in
Hmm.
not the political discourse necessarily,
Hmm.
but I really wanted to work in the theater and
Yeah.
bring
And
things.
I don't know. I feel like art is always kind of political.
Yeah, yeah, well, yes,
Um,
it is to some degree for sure.
uh, and now you were in your by the time you got
So
to university,
I was late
you were
20s.
late 20s. I
Yeah,
was like 19, and
yeah.
I thought you were like really old because I mean when you're
I
19,
was. Well, I felt
everybody's
really old. It was so funny because there was me and Tracy Nepanak.
yeah,
And Tracy is a couple years younger than me, but
yeah,
we were both like, there was one other woman who was like maybe a few years older than me, but we were the old ones. And you sure felt it, like, just even at that age. But in the way, what I felt though was I didn't get caught up in certain things, this idea that of fame or fortune, or
yeah,
you know what I mean? I didn't have any um delusions, I guess, about what I wanted from
yeah,
the study of theater. I just really enjoyed it. I just
yeah.
loved acting.
And I think that's the difference between you and me because I wanted to be I wanted to be in movies. I wanted to be famous. I wasn't happy with my life. I didn't like myself. So it really wasn't ever about the craft.
Right.
It was about sort of where I could get to or what I could be. And when I realized how hard that was going to be, then I pulled the plug on it. Which I think was fine. So 1992, north of 60.
Right.
Uh, how did it come about? How did it sort of?
I was still in university. I was going to school through spring and summer.
Yeah,
And it was I had wanted my plan. I did a double major in theater and history because I thought, well, you'll never work as an
yeah,
actor. So this you could always do your community theater because we did a lot of that here in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And one of the people that I had worked on with was Jordan Wheeler,
Mm.
and I think one of our recent projects at that time was working with youth on the Oka crisis.
Mm.
What happened at Kanastage. So then Jordan, he'd made a short film and he made a number of short films, and he was a writer, and our families were close,
Mm.
so he always felt like a younger brother to me.
Mm.
And then he got this gig on this new TV show that was going to be on CBC, and it was the first show to have a primarily, Indigenous cast,
Yeah.
and he got a role. He got a writing gig on it. So we had a party for him, and felt like we were all saying goodbye to our little brother who's going out
Yeah.
into the big world. And then one day he called and said, they're having trouble finding somebody for this role. Do you want to read for it? And I said, sure. What I do, I didn't even know. I didn't know how to do
Yeah.
an audition tape. I only knew one person with a video camera. That's how long ago it was. And so then, yeah, so I did the one take
Yeah.
because I thought, I'm just going to be a tape basically in their library that they pull, and
Yeah.
they're going to need somebody to come in for a day roll. And
Yeah.
I really needed a day roll because my gasket was broken on my car, remember? And it was going to cost $300 to fix. So, yeah, then so they called me back and said, we'd like to do a what did they call them at the time? They don't do them very much. Chemistry reads, you're going down to Toronto and all the
Yeah.
producers would be there. And that's sort of when it really hit,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I thought I was overwhelmed. I got to Toronto and there was about 20 of us for reading for about four different
Mm-hmm.
characters. And they would just mix you,
Mm-hmm.
let's see the you two together and you two
Mm-hmm.
together and that sort of thing. And but you have to do your contract before. So I didn't have an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to phone somebody who might know an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So I found an agent, and it was all crazy. And then maybe a couple weeks later, they brought me back for another audition, and I just figured because the woman was only 5'2", maybe. I thought, I think I've got this, unless they're going to bring me back again, because they were casting for a cop,
Yeah.
and I had a good idea that Tom Jackson was going to be, had
Yeah.
got the role
Yeah.
of the brother. So I thought he can't have a 5'2" sister because he's like 6'6" or
Oh,
something,
he's really
right?
tall.
Surely
I didn't.
really
I didn't know
tall.
that. Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, it's
How tall are you?
5'10".
Yeah.
So I just had this sense that
Yeah.
second read, oh my goodness. And I didn't know what it meant. I had no
Yeah.
idea. And then going into the show was just a whole other ball game. It's like, one thing about being in university is I loved like reading, I loved thinking, I loved the atmosphere of school
Yeah.
because, you're sort of not beholden to anybody.
Yeah.
You're pick and choose really who you want to talk to. It's not like when you go
Yeah.
to work and
Yeah.
you have to work with
Yeah.
people.
Right.
And then, so it's a really like it's an incubation type of
Yeah.
space. That's how I felt about it. And I really loved history. I loved the idea of, Canadian history in terms of, First Nations and what our history was, how it had not been, at that time, part of Canada's narrative at all, like
Yeah.
historical or narrative. And so like oral tradition was just becoming, you know, uh, considered a primary source,
Yeah.
um, for your research, and it was an exciting time in history, Canadian history, as an academic, yeah, academia, I guess, at that time. So I just felt really excited about the
Mm-hmm.
world, And I had planned to become a history professor. That's what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And so I really loved I loved all the rhythms of being in university. And then when I got on set, when I got cast, and then I had to go to start shooting this show in September, didn't take me long to get kind of, you know, a little frustrated by the fact that you just felt like because you were literally doing the same thing every day,
Yeah.
just with different lines,
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously different scripts, and you do, and there's a lot to learn, but it felt really different. It took me a while to learn how to find myself as an actor in
Mm.
working for television and in working, such a rigorous schedule
Yeah.
because we shot for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was just day in and day out of, the same character and people you don't know. You're with a crew that you don't know and actors. The great thing was that I got to work with people like Gordon Tutusas
Mm-hmm.
and Tina Bomberry, who
Mm-hmm.
played Rosie. And Tina, I'd only ever seen her in The Res Sisters by
Mm.
Thompson Highway. And I, of course, had seen Gordon, Tom Jackson, and there's a fellow in our cast named Jimmy Herman. He played Joe
Yeah.
Gumba.
Yeah.
And Errol Canistano, who was part of our theater
Oh
group.
yeah.
He was part of the ensemble cast. And yeah, so it was a great, great group of people.
And there were a bunch of folks that hadn't acted
There
before.
was a bunch of us
Yeah.
that hadn't acted for television. We'd acted
Yeah.
in theater. So
But weren't there some like younger
younger
people
actors,
that hadn't really
yes.
done anything?
So there was the young actors were found through open casting,
Mm.
and that was Dakota House played TV. Then we had a young actor named Mervyn Good Eagle who played Joey,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lori Okamau played Bertha. So those three young characters were new, and they were sort of part of the main cast.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had, yeah, that we had kids sometimes. They kind of came and went. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we had children in the first 2 seasons, I
Mm.
think, but not much after that because they were hard to work with.
Like working with don't work with kids and animals. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny one day. A driver, I was just, because it was like a little town,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran into one of the drivers, and he's carrying a big Barbie dream house or something, and I said, "What are you doing with that?" And he said, "The little actor won't perform until she gets a Barbie dream house." So they sent him to town
Wow.
to get one.
She had a better agent than you did.
But yeah, so we did the show for all together for 6 seasons.
Mm.
We did 90 episodes, and it was a great run. And
when
then,
when it came out, so I had just come back from Vancouver,
right,
tail between my legs or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're on this show, and I was
crazy.
kind of I kind of was like I had sort of a mixture of like jealousy and awe and pride, and I had lots of different
Mm,
feelings. But I watched the show religiously, the whole 6 seasons, um, and was kind of uh, because I had sort of, that's I had been trying to get into something like
mhm,
that, and then all of a sudden, this was a something I could relate to because it was shot in Canada, and there was somebody that I knew, and it was a good show. Um, and but it was like I feel like it was a game changer. Like I feel like before that there'd been one Indigenous guy on TV, Pat John,
right,
and then even when I was out auditioning, like I auditioned, a year before that for Neon Rider, and they
right.
had one Indigenous character who was played by the wrong kind of Indian, Samuel Sarkar. Right? Well, give this guy a ponytail and or a braid. Nobody will know the difference, right?
I did an NSI. No, it was a NFB. It was NFB did a series here called Daughters of the Country. And it was like it must have been in the early to mid 80s. It would have been around that
Yeah.
time. And so they had all these Indian extras,
Yeah.
and we would head out to Birds Hill Park or wherever. And I remember a bunch of us were walking, sort of knew each other, right? We're walking around this building, and at the side of the building, we're sitting all these white guys, and they had painted them brown and put on wigs
Uh,
with, with braids,
yeah.
and they were they were going to be the paddlers in the canoe. And we're like, we could be the paddlers in the canoe. It was so funny,
God.
but it was just like, oh my God, it was horrible. So that was like a really big, misguiding,
No.
sort of a sense of who Indigenous people were
But
for
you, but
sure.
your show comes out and it's got this, there's three white people in the cast.
Yeah.
Everybody else is or four, whatever it was. Everybody
Hmm.
else is indigenous. And there's indigenous writers,
Yeah.
and it is of course not representing the entire experience, but it
Right.
is a
It
snapshot
was
of
pivotal.
this
Yes.
place and these people, and it's kind of soapy, and there's good guys and there's bad guys, and it's got all the good elements, a bit dark sometimes,
Hmm.
um and to me, like, for somebody who hadn't really grew up in the suburbs and didn't really have any exposure to that. I think it was a big deal for me to see um, Indigenous folks just doing their thing, and they're fighting
Right.
about this, and they're doing,
Right.
what I mean.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
not
yeah.
the stereotypical things that I
No.
had kind of heard when I was growing
Yes,
up. So I feel like it was really important in that way, like for
it
me
was.
even.
Yeah.
But then also just uh, to sort of mainstream Indigenous artists and Indigenous stuff, and it's on like the CBC, and that was back when there was still like say 5 channels or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
That's why it was so
yeah,
famous. Yeah.
like, so. I mean, and now there's so many people doing so many interesting things. There's it feels like there's kind of a now, of course, you're talking about the stuff that was going on in the 70s and the 80s, but it feels like there's
Yeah.
a renaissance that's
Hmm.
that's you know that's that's been kind of mainstream.
Yeah. There's money
Um,
that's been made available in Canada
yeah.
for Indigenous artists and BIPOC artists.
Now, I want to just jump off for a second here, because when you say that, it makes me think of this whole thing with pretendians, which
Yeah.
is the whole thing with basically people. I mean, a lot of it has to do with people sucking money out of the system, money that's not meant for them.
Well, it has to do my take on,
This is what
pretendians.
I want, because I'm interested in it, but I feel like I don't really, as a white dude, I feel like I don't. My take is not.
I feel like there's one, I get what I see from the systems that are in place that, give these people opportunities, is that and really makes their careers,
Mhm.
whether that's in justice or in, the arts, is that because they're pretendians, they're very comfortable culturally with them because they're not indigenous. You know what I mean? We actually do come from different cultures,
Yeah.
and we don't have a familiarity with, I don't. Like in my 60s, and I've worked in, quite a few arenas,
Mhm.
and I still don't know. I don't sort of intimately know non-indigenous family structures or
Yeah.
anything. Like, so I think that, um when there's a comfort level, that happens with pretendians. And pretendians themselves, have, it seems to me, have all sorts of reasons to become pretendians. It often seems either an idea that just struck them at some point in their life that they want to be, and they might be, and then they sort of full force go after this and present themselves that way. I've seen a number of people like that, and others that really believe that in their family there was an Indigenous person, and that makes them Indigenous. Like I obviously have some, like, European blood in me. So it's like, but I could never even imagine considering myself Scottish. Like, it's just, I mean, so and my Scottish blood doesn't even go that far back. It's just my grandmother's father was Scottish. So, but so there's people that, they have like a person might be, generations and generations ago. But whatever. I mean, for whatever reason, I guess people do it. And I think the ones that I find really offensive are the ones that did take a lot of space away from, actual Indigenous people and very talented Indigenous people. And they were able to do that because they were of the same culture of the systems that were bestowing all this upon them. So that I find really, really insidious and offensive. I really have very little, I have very little, uh, you know, it sounds cruel, but I don't have a lot of tenderness towards that, or I don't feel, um, I just feel that, our families have paid such enormous prices because of who they were, that the cost on our lives, the cost on our families' lives, the loss of our lands, our livelihoods, the loss, my grandmother losing all her children, being taken, I mean, these sort of stories that were just so horrid that really we still don't even talk about them very much. Because it was so gross. It was so horrific. I heard somebody talking about, the Indian residential schools this morning at an event I was at. And somebody said, I thought of them as child work camps. And I remember my late aunt saying they were like child prisons. They weren't schools. And the way they treated us is the way they treat prisoners. There's nothing endearing about it. And it was so dangerous on so many levels. And so, I think that in those ways, other things, are, like the ideas that, we couldn't gather, we couldn't vote, we couldn't, people couldn't get educated if they wanted to. My father had been awarded a scholarship when he was in high school. He got to go to high school in Portage la Prairie, although he lived in the residential school, because his father had been an Olympic runner.
Oh, okay.
So they had sent him to school in the town. He then got a scholarship, but the Indian agent wouldn't let him have it. So, there's just at every turn, just trying to destroy our people. And so I always think pretenders don't have that. Like, they don't know that. They don't know what it means, to be Indigenous. And, there's obviously so much we're proud of. There's so much we hold on to. And we're so grateful for. But the colonial impacts have been just
and that to
nasty.
me seems like an extra colonial kick in the ass,
Yeah.
When a white person is like,
Right.
oh, hey, here's some money that's available,
Yeah.
or here's some, here's a, hey, people
Exactly.
like, indigenous stuff,
Can I get a white person up here to
I'm gonna
like do
be,
this?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be, I'm gonna be I'm, my name's Joseph Boyden, and my uncle was TP Joe,
I
like,
know. Well, I did Through Black Spruce,
yeah,
the film. So I had optioned it
yeah,
from Joseph before I knew
yeah,
the scandal. And we were in prep for the film when the scandal broke.
yeah. I didn't know this.
Yeah, and so Barbara Samuels, who co-created North of 60,
Mm-hmm.
was the writer I had approached to adapt the book
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to work with somebody that I could work really closely with
Mm-hmm.
because in that book, that was written by Pretendian, who had spent a lot of time up in Moose City and Moose Factory
Yeah.
and had become very close to a family there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is loosely based on this family
Mm-hmm.
story. And I got to know the family through the making of the film,
Yeah.
and they were actually cultural advisors on the film. And so we did proceed with the movie because I thought we've raised the money to do the film. I've got to go for it, and I'd also like my handprint was on it. Like I
Yeah.
felt very, just very very invested in it.
Well, and I don't think the whole point, behind whoever is outing pretendians, I don't think the whole point is to actually uh, disincentivize indigenous folks. I
Right.
mean, it's not
Yes,
to
that's what
punish.
I felt
It's not
like.
to punish
Yes.
you.
Yeah, that's
So
and we
I
felt
mean,
that
that's
way.
the only person that would have punished because
I know.
you'd already paid him for the book. So
And I thought, yeah,
uh,
I got to move forward and make my
yeah,
film.
and he was a good. I mean, he's a good writer. Like,
Yes. Nice
but
person.
but
But
it's just the
yeah.
whole sucking. It's sucking the air out of the room. It's
Right.
and he's he. I mean, he looks, he's handsome. He looks palatable to, because this is a big part of it, is
Yeah.
even in Hollywood, a lot of the black actors that you see are light skinned. Halle Berry, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's great, and
Yeah.
she's can't help the color of her skin, but I mean, you just
Yes.
don't see like
It's a
really dark
perspective. It's a
skinned people.
lens. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lens. And
yeah.
I think that as a producer, that's what I love about being a producer is that it's my lens.
Hmm.
Like in Through Black Spruce, I was like one of the key decision makers. I was the last pass at casting and
Hmm.
everything. So I just had such a great time making that film. We did work with Don McKellar. Don was great. Like I was just there with him and the cinematographer, and we would just go up and do all this, pre-shooting, and then we shot the film. And
He's an interesting guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's lovely.
yeah.
And we had such a great time doing the film together. And so in that regard, I felt like because I was such a strong creative,
Hmm.
had such a strong creative producer role, I felt that I was intimately involved in all the decisions, and it was really fun. And it was great working with the team. Like we worked with people from Fort Albany, Moose Factory,
Hmm.
and it was just it was
What
exciting.
year was that again?
It was I think it came out in 2017 at TIFF,
Was that right after politics?
right after what?
Politics.
Oh no, politics was in 2006, January I got elected.
Oh yeah, so it was a
And
few
then
years
in
before that.
2008, October of 2008. It's just coming up now. Yeah, the anniversary
Um,
of
how
that.
uh, how weird is it to be in politics?
Well, there's two like two really different takeaways I have. One is sort of at a personal level. It's really strange.
Yeah.
It's really strange, and you know, it's sort of it seems, I don't know if it's still that way, but when I was there, it felt far removed from your sort of average Canadian lifestyle. Like, the average Canadian lifestyle is not about, sending your children abroad to go to school and, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's sort of a different dynamic. I don't know if that, there was at a personal level, just, there was just a lot of things that were quite surprising to me. And as an Indigenous person, there was a lot of experiences that were just, I really, really had to, learn how to,
Gross.
yeah, put on the brakes. I had to literally tell people to don't touch me, don't touch my
Yeah.
face. Like, you know what? Like, just stop patting me.
Who won it?
Oh, it was,
Like where?
oh my
Was it
God.
Justin Trudeau?
No, it was so common.
Like just like
People felt, honestly, I felt like a leprechaun when I was there.
like
Oh, the
where?
leprechaun is here.
Like in Ottawa or what?
Yeah, and on the hill and the whole experience.
My God.
Oh, like, like,
Uh,
you're so cute. It's nice. You're here.
she's
Oh,
our token
you
Indian.
speak French?
Yeah.
Oh, where did you learn that?
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I think I grew up in Canada. I think we have official languages. So, it's so strange. It was strange in that
Yeah.
regard. But I also found, coming from a background where I did a lot of research. I had worked for a number of years on First Nations files, doing research and policy work on behalf of First Nations,
Mhm.
and in particular around Jordan's Principle. Jordan Anderson was from Norrie House, which was my home community. I did a lot of work on the murdered, missing, and women file. Again, Helen Betty Osborne was from my home community, and her story was part of the launch of an international port called Sisters in Spirit. And I worked with them jointly to help raise the profile of that. And we would do the vagina monologues along with the Native Women's Association of Canada to, help promote the report, and then also support the families, raise money to support the families or women's shelters. And but in doing my work with First Nations, I started to see where, there was 17 federal departments that all came under the Indian Act, rather than being 17 different federal departments dealing with these issues. And there was no regulations on money. There was not a lot of oversight. There was no mechanisms in which to ensure human rights were being protected, like as in like the case of Jordan Anderson. Here's a 2-year-old child, who's been living in the hospital since he was born, and then his family's told he can go home now by the doctors, but the province refuses to cover the costs that for him to go home. If he had lived off reserve, they would have covered the costs, even as a First Nation person. But because he resided on First Nations land, then they were not. So it was, well, one, a real violation of human rights and children's rights, but also it really took me by surprise how much I had to talk about it when I was in caucus, because I had a riding that at the time had 35 First Nations, now has 42, but at the time had 35 First Nations, and we had hundreds of children that were needing healthcare services. And the way the federal government was dealing with it, because the province refused to even discussed paying for those services,
Mm.
the federal government would then make the parent give up guardianship of the child, so the child could then be under the care of First Nations Child and Family Services,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would provide program funding.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just a horrible, violation of rights on so many levels, and such a violation of our treaty rights. It was, it was just the gross mismanagement and the acceptance of that as the norm
Yeah.
for children. For anybody, it was so shocking, and I couldn't get over. Like I was thinking, these are not bad people. Like most of these are good-hearted people. Some of them have good minds.
Mm-hmm.
Like why are they not getting this? And then I'd found, like, one day I said, we do not have universal health care in this country. And somebody said, what? That was really what caught the attention of my caucus.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were able to start moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
doing a motion in the House, and then, and then continued on. And they still have never created legislation on it. And, that again becomes, another, um, you know, issue with First Nations, is that a lot of times the legislation doesn't properly reflect what First Nations need or want. And the system is still housed, under the Indian Act. So
Did
that's a big
you
problem.
did you read Kevin Klein's article this week on
I
land?
saw the title of it. I saw the headline, so I decided not to read
Yeah.
it.
Speaking of pretendians, because he's a
Oh
pretendian.
yes, I
Yeah.
heard that. Yes,
Yeah. He says he's whatever, and
was
his brother's like, nope, this is news to me.
came out at the last election,
Yeah.
right?
But he, wrote this article. I guess he's the publisher of the Sun,
Yes,
and he wrote this article about, you know, land rights in Canada and yada yada yada, and sort of, uh, I don't know that he comes out and says it, but he sort of lays. It's the same old thing that we've done all of this everything for these people, and how come they
but you know
can't do
what?
anything
Here's
for
the
themselves?
problem: is we have hardly anything compared to what you have.
Yeah.
So we don't have money for infrastructure. We don't have money for hospitals. We don't have
And
money for, like, we don't get
yeah.
that federal health transfer dollars, or education transfer dollars. Like, that is such a myth. And that was one of the other big myths that I found in terms of this issue around Jordan's principle and the need for, attention on children's health services, was that we don't get what you get,
Mhm.
and then we're asking for more.
And
We
also,
don't get anything. Like,
and I mean, you've been telling me about the all the layers of bureaucracy and this sort of colonial system that, the Indian Act that still runs
yes,
all this stuff, and like you say, lots of well-intentioned people in there, but the system is so Byzantine and so opaque and so bureaucratic that, money is not going where it should be going, and I think that there's a huge. I think that corruption is happening because.
well, yeah, and I don't even want to get into that because
but
there's just so many.
I just mean the whole system is very.
There's cracks everywhere.
The whole system is
Let's just
very
say that.
broken.
Yes.
And so anyone who says, well, you're not being oppressed anymore, so just get with the program.
Right.
There still is a colonial system running.
Here's the thing is that, say, for instance, in Manitoba, where we have Manitoba Hydro, right, which is huge industry, and after all these years, it still has, it still operates as like a very exclusive sort of, insular kind of, institution. But, the wealth of this province, from Manitoba Hydro is so enormous, and that that water is, could be disputed, you know, as to whether First Nations have rights to
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
waterways. So there's like, there's this myth that, Canada's wealth is somehow Canadians only,
Mm-hmm.
is for, but the wealth of this country is because of the land, because of where we are situated.
Mm-hmm.
And Manitoba, our hydro, which has been a source of, great economy. Um, Again, First Nations have not benefited from that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their home territory
Mm-hmm.
that was flooded and moved, and even the lake has been, you know,
Do you think, now, of course, the system is the system, and uh, I worked for I worked for an MLA as a constituency assistant a number of years ago, an NDP MLA. So I just had a little glimpse into the workings, the also dysfunctional workings of provincial politics.
right?
Um, and the system kind of does what it does. So I'm not saying that a Wab Canoe or a Nahani Fontaine can come in and wave their wands and
Right.
do whatever. But do you think that having representation at that high level provincially is is that
I think it
helpful for?
matters.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that
I
even
mean, obviously representation matters.
even well, here's the thing too. What I found was when I was in the House, I mean, I got elected with another First Nation member. We're the only two that year, but we were literally like only number 5 and 6 ever.
Wow.
And so that was kind of a tipping point. Now you have Indigenous people that are elected in every election.
Yeah.
But so when we were there was no the lawyers in the House didn't have the right knowledge for Aboriginal law
Mm.
there. But the other thing is because we haven't had representation, we didn't know about how much research we could do. Like you can do so much research through an MP's office in the House. You can ask for like, I want to look at, say, Fox Lake First Nation, or I
Mm.
want to look at this this First Nation and see what happened when they put in this
Yeah.
whatever generating station there. What happened on the Winnipeg River? When they put those dams in, prior to, right?
Yeah.
Like Manitoba Hydro taking it over.
Yeah.
So you can kind of there's a lot of like research. You can just ask for
Mm.
letters, you can start paper trails,
Yeah.
and you can even look at, you know, communications between First Nations and the government. It's really amazing.
Mm.
There's a lot of research and a lot of work to be done. It's quite exciting.
Yeah. You
Hmm.
should have been a history professor.
I know. It's like it what well there was people there that had been there, because there's backbenchers there that
Yeah.
are so great. Like they've been there forever, some of them.
Yeah.
And they've, done their masters through these research
Yeah.
assistants. They'll be like, "Oh, this is a really good thing. I should do my masters on this." And then they get all this help. So it was very interesting seeing, what some people were doing. They've been able to do a lot of research and interesting projects, and they had, you know, really taken their time and their opportunity there to try and make a difference.
Mm.
And there, and that was a lot of the backbenchers. Like
Yeah.
a lot of them just did like there was a water caucus,
Yeah.
and that was back in 2006.
Mm.
So it was great to start sitting in on the water caucus and just find out
Yeah.
why are they meeting.
Hmm. So I was working for my MLA
Mm-hmm.
the year running up to the election where they were all stabbing each other in the back, the NDP. You
Oh,
remember that?
you mean this last election?
Well, no, but the one when Greg Selinger lost and
Right, right.
they were just all, they'd been in power
Oh,
for
yes, of
13
course.
years or
Yes,
something, and
yes, yes.
everybody was just, you don't stay in power forever, right? And
That
everybody
just
just,
goes so fast.
the knives come out, right?
Yes,
As that
yes.
happens.
I do remember it.
I just think you don't get to stay forever. Um, so, but my candidate was like I was like, we're gonna lose. Like I knew, I thought we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
lose,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, no, we're gonna win because you have to believe you're gonna win while you're in the middle of the election because you have to campaign like you're gonna win when you're the candidate. But I
Yeah.
was like putting up signs, and I'm like, I don't think we're gonna win. Um, and but you know, there was such a like, there was, I would talk to her and I'd be like, what is happening here? Because it just the things that she would tell me about that were happening with the caucus,
Right.
and
Yeah.
oh, this person's doing this and this, you know, and this and this and this, and it was just so weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, there's an election. Why is everybody doing this? Like you're trying to win, not, you know, I mean, shoot
It's
yourselves in
right.
the circle here. Um, so when you lost, uh, did you when you're in that election, did you know you were going to lose?
Okay. So first time when I ran, I never thought I was going to win.
Yeah.
Never. Like it never even occurred to me that I would win. And I did it because one, the riding association was in my home community
Yeah.
and we needed a candidate. And I thought this is a good experience,
Hmm.
like because I wanted to run when my kids were grown.
Yeah.
I thought I will one day run
Yeah.
for sure. And so, but the morning of the election, I woke up, I'd had a dream, I knew I was going to win. And I did. That was shocking.
Mm-hmm.
So then the second
Yeah.
election, I knew in my heart that I really do not need to win this election because it was really hard on my children, which is
Yeah.
why I didn't want to. I wouldn't have run if I
Yeah.
thought I was going to win
Yeah.
because my children. That's why I left television. It was
Yeah.
hard on the family. You know,
Yeah.
you're gone Monday to
Yeah.
Friday. You're just like you're traveling back and
Yeah.
forth, and I take my kids with me, but it's hard. So being elected was even harder. I was
Yeah.
gone all the time.
Yeah.
So I was really hoping I wouldn't win my second election. I didn't, I really wanted to be home with my
Yeah.
children.
So you were happy.
Yeah, it was just fine. And again, I had a dream the night
Yeah.
before, and the dream was so beautiful. And I told my younger son, yeah, I said, son, if I don't win,
Yeah.
don't worry. Listen, I had this dream last night. Told him the dream, but he was so sad. He was like, "No, I just think it's sad that you might not win." I said, "No, it's
Do,
really going to be
do you
okay."
think you were the only MP that had a beautiful dream that they were going to lose? And it
Yeah,
was fine.
yeah, I think
Uh,
so. But
so
it's all, yeah, it's all in. I don't know. There's a sort of. I've had a strange life.
yeah.
I kind of feel like, the best laid plans,
Yeah.
like just throw them out that's how it's been for
Yeah.
me. Like I've had my little maps and of my life, and then it's like it all just goes out the window.
Well,
And
like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So after that, after you lost, did you go back to making film and TV and doing all that stuff right away, or did you take a bit of time?
no,
Or
not right away. I did take a bit of time. I actually did some writing. I got a grant to write a script, and I still have never I still haven't done a short film. Like I haven't directed anything yet. I've directed a short documentary, um then I went back to just working with some First Nations, like doing,
yeah,
legislative reviews, policy work. Like I really love that kind of work.
yeah,
And so I had been doing that, and then I got an offer to when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was being created.
mhm,
I had an offer to work there, but I'd also had a dream. I know this all sounds crazy, but
oh, the dream.
it's like I was like when I was shooting for Three Black Spruce, we were trying to cast somebody, and my producer partner and my director kept saying, "Well, we should get him. Like, don't you agree?" I said, "You know what? Go ahead and sign him. I know he's not going to be in the movie. I said, only because I'm a random psychic. I don't know why I know these things sometimes, but I do. I said, and I know this guy's not going to be in our movie. And they're like, what? You have to be on board. I said, I am on
Yeah.
board. I said, I don't agree with the decision, but I know it's not going to be in the movie anyways. So I have these dreams. I have these, like, my little random psychic things. What was I on about? I was talking about.
I don't know. We've only got 2 more minutes left.
Oh, yes. I was just going to say that I ended up having this dream. I ended up, because of that, I created a company called Kiss to Can Pictures with Phyllis Lang of Buffalo Gal Pictures. And we've now been together for 15 years, and we've done 2 series and 2 movies. And we're doing, so our 4th season of Acting Good is just launched last week. So it's on air right now on CTV Comedy and then on Crave. And then it will air on APTN and Lumi in the spring. And now we're starting
and you're in it.
I'm in it and I produce it.
Yeah.
And
you've been doing a lot of producing, but less acting.
Yeah.
You like being back on
I like being part of the team. I love putting the teams together. I love that part of it.
Yeah. We got 30 seconds left. What have you've done all these different interesting things that you didn't plan on doing. What haven't you done yet that you want to
do? I'd really like to do some more research work.
You want to be a history professor.
I really am interested in Aboriginal law. Like, I'm really interested in the issues around water and First Nations rights in regards to water. I'm really interested in that.
Water.
Yeah, and the sort of management of water and because it's not being managed very well. And I think that I just think that that I really believe that there's a treaty right, an Indigenous right to water that's been part of our homeland and our life, since time immemorial.
Well, I think that you're going to get a dream, and the dream is going to tell you that it's time for you to start working on water. So all you have to do is wait for it. Thank you so much. This has been fun. We're just out of time already, and we're still.
Yeah, I know.
We're still interesting. Will you come back another time? We'll talk about some more things.
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina Keeper. Thank you so much for stopping by. The rest of you, art will save us all.
Yes.
Thank you.